Hello and welcome to Husky Talk. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I'd like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. They are one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. President Sean Rabinowitz, proud supporter of our podcast network, and we love him very much. Green Street Trust International, owned and operated by Rennell Jump and UConn legendary men's basketball player Jake Voskuhl. They specialize in tax plans for businesses large or small. They will save you money or get you a big fat return on your taxes. To schedule your free strategic tax planning session today, go to www.greenstreettrust.com. Pete Finch in the Finch Law Firm is located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. If you've suffered any type of personal injury, slip and fall, car accident, your mother-in-law ran you over with her car, your wife got angry one night and decided to stab you, the Finch firm is for you. Pete has won legal battles all across the state of Connecticut, and he will go to war to get every dollar you deserve in compensation. You just have to remember, in a pinch, call Finch or go to his website, thefinchfirm.com. Dynamic Human Performance is owned and operated by UConn legendary running back Andre Dixon. He has a 5,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility in Hartford, Connecticut. He trains boys and girls of all ages, all sports. He has a boot camp program 7 days a week, 6 a.m. You want to get in shape, you go to Andre. He has an athletic development program where he trains boys and girls in the sport of their choice from the ground up, helps them reach their full potential, become the best they can possibly be. Andre has sent boys and girls to college on scholarship for all different types of sports. To work with the best, go to www.dynamichumanperformance.com. We will hear from the rest of our sponsors later. Now for the man of the hour, former UConn offensive lineman and UConn coach, among other places, Maryland, Coach Lyndon Johnson. Great to see you again.
Great to be here.
Great to be here. Yes, it is great to be here. And it's great to have you on. And your name has been popping up quite often. So I felt that we got lucky and had to talk.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny. I don't even know your entire backstory. So it's going to be a learning experience for me. Where indeed did you grow up? I mean, were you born in Connecticut?
No, actually, I was born in Jamaica.
Oh, okay. Well, you got me there already. I had no idea that was coming.
Yeah, I was born in Jamaica. We came over when I was about 5, 6 years old, and then lived in Bronx, New York for a little bit, and then finally made our way to Connecticut.
Wow. So you spent time in the Bronx and then you went to Connecticut.
Yeah.
Where did you go in Connecticut initially?
We were actually in Stamford.
You were in Stamford. Okay.
Yeah. Through there, I'd say up until about, I was in second or third grade, something like that. We were in Stamford, and then we moved to Norwalk, Connecticut, and that's where we stayed.
Norwalk. Okay.
Yep.
That's where our good running back Cam Edwards is from.
Yeah. Cam and I from the same hometown. Yeah. Oh yeah.
When exactly did you start playing football? Did you start at an early age, or did you start when you were a little bit older?
Well, to be honest, it's a funny story. When I was young, in the youth leagues,
You're
8,
still
9
young,
years old.
Coach.
Yeah. What's that?
You're still young.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. But I read in the paper football, tryouts for football, and my brother took me to it. Now, the only problem is in Jamaica, football means soccer.
Oh, right. Yes, yes,
So
it does.
I
Yes.
showed up. I showed up with a soccer ball, and my brother had dropped me off and left, and was going to come back to pick me up. And I walked around the back and saw these kids running around with shoulder pads and helmets, and I had no idea what it was.
No idea what was going on.
I'd never seen it before. And I went up to the coach and told him, I said, I'm here for football. And he's like, yeah, right over there. And I held up the soccer ball. I said, no, football. And he was like, oh, yeah, you're in the wrong place. But so I just hung out there for a while. And about halfway through the practice, he was like, listen, you're already here. You got your physical. You might as well try it. You have nothing, because they weren't going to they couldn't let me leave. And
Yeah, they had to watch you the whole time anyway.
yeah, so I just started running around, and after a while, they will just like kind of run into people, and I'm like, oh, that's legal. I can do that.
Yeah, you can legally
And,
hit people and not get
yeah,
arrested for it.
exactly. And I had a lot of fun doing it, and that was all she wrote for soccer for me.
Is that back then, like, because I know now it still blows my mind. They don't have weight limits. Did they have weight limits back then?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and obviously I was always a pound or two over. So I was
I
the
was
guy
too.
every Saturday morning running around with a garbage bag over my head, trying to lose some weight before weigh-ins.
I remember, yeah, I remember being the only fifth grader on a diet. Just looking at that, that was crazy.
Absolutely.
Did you take to it right away? Did you like it? I mean, because it's got to be completely different coming
Yeah,
from another
it's
country and not
different.
expecting.
I liked the physical part of it right away. Being able to hit people and things like that. The technical part of it took me really a couple years to kind of fully buy into and understand. I really didn't understand all the rules of the game,
Yeah.
and all the different plays and things like that. It was overwhelming, and so I struggled at first from the technical aspect. But once I got that figured out, everything else kind of started to come a little bit easy to me.
And did you feel you had good youth coaches growing up? Did
Yeah,
they
I tell you
kind of
what,
know what they were doing?
that's what I was very fortunate with. I had three right in a row. Really, now that when I look back at it, really good coaches that were guys that really believed in the true fundamentals of the game, and then techniques. And to be honest, that stuff has stuck with me even to this day. That's my foundation. That's what I believe in. Obviously X's and O's and all those things, and those things are important. But it's all about. It always comes back to fundamentals, and that's when I watch a lot of games nowadays. To be
Yeah,
honest, that's one thing I think that's lacking sometimes.
hugely.
The basic fundamentals of the game, the spatial awareness, things like that. You just don't. I'm not seeing it the way we used to see it, and I
No,
don't know what the answer is, but it's just not there.
no, I mean, just even pure blocking and tackling. I mean, it doesn't look like anyone does tackling drills anymore.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
know they don't practice in pads, but I mean, tackling is just wow. It just blows my mind sometimes watching that. From there, did you play all the way up until junior high?
Yeah, I played right through until until I got to high school. I mean, I played all the way, and then I really didn't play many other sports. I did a little bit of basketball and things like that, but just goofing around. But in a competitive arena, really football was it for me until I got to high school, and then I started wrestling, and wrestling became very popular to me as well. Those are probably my two favorite sports,
Yeah,
going through the
that's
rest of the way. But yeah, football, I was all in. Once I figured out the X's and O's part of it, I was all in.
your parents being from another country, another culture. Were they supportive of you trying to play football? Were they okay with it, or were they nervous about the physical aspect of it? Because it's got to be different.
They were a little nervous, but to be honest, I had two older brothers who eventually played in high school and things like that. But my parents um, never really even understood the game, to be honest. And my dad was all about cricket,
Yeah.
boxing, and soccer. That maybe a little WWE wrestling every now and
Yeah.
again. But that was basically, and my dad was a real hard blue collar guy, and he was always working many
Right.
different jobs. So
Right.
to
Right.
be honest, he probably came to maybe two or three of my high school games. In my college games, he only came to one, and that was my last one.
Wow. Wow.
He
Really?
he was always working, and
Yeah.
football was just so foreign to him.
Right. Right.
But they supported me, and they backed me,
Yeah.
but they just didn't understand it.
So you played through junior high, you start to get to high school. Wrestling is probably the most difficult individual sport you can do
Yeah.
in high school. I mean, man, anytime I recruited a kid and they said they were a wrestler, I mean, my ears perked up.
Oh yeah.
I always wanted a kid that was a wrestler. Then
Of
you
course.
knew you were getting someone with toughness, someone with conditioning, someone who wasn't afraid of anything, who had a short memory to come back from things.
Definitely, bro.
What got you into wrestling?
Well, our wrestling coach was also our head
Football
football
guy.
coach. So, to be honest, I don't know how much of a choice I had.
Yeah, one way or another, you were doing it.
Yeah, he kind of dragged me in there and kind of threw me in it. But once again, very similar to my beginning in football. Once I kind of got an understanding of the sport, I took to it, and I was very successful. Did very well with it, and I loved it. I mean, those two were probably neck and neck when you say what was my favorite sport.
Yeah.
Wrestling and football, they were very close.
Was there ever a close opportunity where you and Norris were going to get on the wrestling mat and go at it? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I was just a high school wrestler. Norris did it on the big stage.
I know, I know. No.
Plus, he was like twice the size of me. I wasn't messing with that guy.
Right, right. So back then it was totally different as far as recruiting goes. Did you have aspirations to play at the college level? Did it cross your mind? And then for recruiting, did you just start sending film out? Because I know camps weren't as prominent back in those
Yeah,
days.
yeah. It was no, neither was sending film out. I mean, you're talking
Yeah,
about back in the
right. They would
16,
come to your school.
16 millimeter for days. It wasn't even VHS yet.
Right.
Um, but no, I've always I knew I could play at a college level. I actually saw myself as at a very high level. I was going to go to Syracuse or Penn State or someplace like that. And those were schools that were recruiting me. And I ended up going to a prep school, Bridgeton Academy up in
Oh, you went
Maine.
to Bridgeton. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Ended up going to Bridgeton, and first game of
Just
the
like Coach
season.
Marino.
Yeah, actually, yeah, he was the year behind me. He was a year behind me, and
Crazy.
I ended up getting hurt the very first game. So I was out for about 6 or 7 weeks, and I came back for the last few games, and it just wasn't the same. You know,
Yeah.
uh, and the injury took a little bit out of me, and obviously I recovered, but I just wasn't I was never the
Yeah.
same player that I was in high school. I couldn't
Right.
move the same way or make some of the plays that I made. So I ended up the Syracuse and the Penn States of the world kind of moved on from me because of that injury, and I ended up signing with the University of Maine.
So Maine recruited you pretty heavily. Did any other schools in the Yankee Conference recruit you as well?
No, because like I said, by the time it was all done, I only had about maybe a game and a half, maybe 2 games of film.
Oh, okay.
Because I had missed most of the season with that injury,
So
I
they
didn't
were
have.
going off your senior.
They went off what they knew about me from high school, and I think they came to maybe the last game at Bridgeton that I played in, and so they were the only one that I had, so I took it.
Did you
And
get to go on a visit at least?
they brought me up on a
You
visit.
did go on an
Yeah,
official.
yeah, oh yeah. So I did the whole thing, and when we got close to preseason camp, I just didn't feel right about going back to Maine for the 4 years. And I
Yeah,
told my,
Orno,
yeah,
man.
it's an acquired taste. It's definitely
Yeah,
acquired taste.
it's got
And I
good clam
told,
chowder.
yeah,
That's what I remember it for.
I told my dad I just didn't feel good about it. So I called up coaching one of the coaches at UConn that recruited me or tried to recruit me in high school. I told them I wasn't interested at the time because I thought I was going on to bigger things, and they told me the only thing they had for me was a walk on spot.
Preferred
And
walk on, yeah.
yeah, so I told them, okay, that's fine. I said, well, what would I have to
Make
do
it
to get a
work.
scholarship? Maybe. And they said, well, if you start, you get a scholarship. So I got there, and that's what I did. I mean, I went in and competed, and was able to get a scholarship. And at the end of the day, it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Now, here's the weird thing: the first game of the season, my freshman year, we played Maine.
Of course you
And
did.
back then things didn't happen as quickly as they do now, as far as making edits and updates and things like that. So
Right.
when the program guide came out, I was
You're
actually
still listed
I was
on the
on both
roster.
rosters.
I would love to see that. You're on both rosters for the program guy. Oh my
But
God, that's crazy. Was
but
Cosgrove the head coach at Maine?
no, it was Buddy Stevens actually.
Oh, Buddy was there.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, rest in peace, Buddy.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
did
Buddy,
not know that.
he recruited me, and then right when he left Maine would have been when I was coming in. Then Coach Murphy took over, and
Did Buddy give you any issues about leaving, or was he
Buddy was already gone,
okay?
and then Tim Murphy came in. But yeah, we had some interesting
Tim Murphy
conversations.
was at Maine too.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I didn't know
So
that either.
so he took over when I was supposed to be coming in, and when I made the call, yeah, he wasn't too happy with me, and but I tell you, in the long run, it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah,
My
of
time
course.
at UConn, both athletically and socially, was probably the best 4 or 5 years of my life.
Was TJ the head coach when you were
Yeah,
there?
yep,
Okay, so
yeah,
you were with TJ's class. Was that when DeGennaro was the quarterback?
yeah. DeGennaro was a class ahead of me. Yeah,
Okay, and was that Wilbur Gilliard? Was he the
Wilbur
running back?
came in. Yeah, Wilbur's a couple years behind me, and I mean, back
Hezekiah?
then it was running back you. Back then we had
Yeah, it was.
Wilbur, we had Jeff Gallagher, we had George Booth, we had Kevin Wesley. I mean,
Wow.
these guys were. It was like 4 or 5 guys right in a row, all conference, first team all conference running backs, like right in a row.
Yeah,
It
that's
had
what
to
I
do with
heard.
the offensive line, of course.
Of course it does. Of course it does. So you came in as a freshman, and you initially weren't on scholarship.
No.
And did you eventually earn a scholarship during your freshman year?
Yeah, by my end of this year, that spring ball season, I earned a starting role and I got my scholarship. Yeah,
Wow.
and I
Wow.
had to because my dad told me we got enough money
Yeah, he's
left.
like, you got one shot at this.
1 year, we got 1 year because I was the last of 6 kids, so the money
Yeah.
was scarce, and so he told me we can afford 1 year. After that, you're either coming home or you got to figure something else out.
And who was the offensive line coach when you were there?
My first couple years, I had. Now I didn't go in as an offensive lineman. I went in as a linebacker. So
I didn't know that.
I was an outside linebacker. I only weighed my freshman year about maybe 230 pounds, maybe 225.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then when they moved me to O line, it was the end of my so I got redshirted my first year, and then that end of my sophomore year, my redshirt freshman year, they showed up at my apartment. We had a couple guys get injured or whatever, and they asked me if I'd help out and go to O line. Just it was supposed to be for one season.
Right, of course.
So I said, okay, I'll do it for 1 year. So I got up to like maybe 240, 250 that 1 year, and all of a sudden I was like, I don't know, second or third team, all conference or whatever, and they're like, oh, you're staying.
Yeah.
So then I started putting the weight on. But I had my old line coaches. I had a guy by the name of Jeff Fiesta my first year, and
Okay.
Jeff ended up going on down to the Citadel, and then I had Dave Robichaud.
Oh, that's the guy I hear
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I had him the rest of the way.
And he was very good from what I
Yeah,
heard.
yeah, he was awesome. Both of those guys were. I've been very fortunate throughout my whole, from youth league through high school, college. I've been very fortunate to be around some really, really good coaches. All great men, but they were all excellent coaches, and that's why I look back and I wouldn't change a thing.
And that obviously impacts you as a coach. I mean, you take after the coach who coaches you. You
Not of
represent
course.
them, and you take on a lot of the tendencies, and the way that they taught you are going to be the way that you're going to teach your own players.
Exactly. Yeah. Of course, you take the bits and pieces from everybody that's influenced you over the years, and kind of smash it together to come up with your own, concepts and philosophies and things like that. But the thing, like that's what I tell kids today when I coach. I don't ever claim to be a guru of football. I said I'm a good thief. I've taken a little bit from
Everyone
everybody,
is. Yeah, yeah,
everybody
you're
who's
right.
coached me or anyone I've coached with. I take little bits and pieces from that for me, each of them, and say, how can I put this together to make what I want to do better?
Right, right,
But I think that's what we do in life too. That's what we all should be doing. Learn from anyone that you can.
right, exactly. So, I mean, you were all conference right away, and they ended up saying, "Well, you're staying here,"
Yeah.
and you played guard, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, you played guard, and from there, how did you feel you progressed? I mean, you were all conference in a starter. Was it for 3 years?
I ended up starting for. Well, it turned out to be 4. Yeah.
Or because of the red
Yep.
shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing because that's very rare
Yeah.
to start for 4 years, and especially had you played O line in high school? Did you play that at
Yeah,
all?
I went both ways in high school,
You
played
did.
O-line,
Okay.
and that was kind of the reason when they asked me to move over, because we had actually 2 guys get injured right away in camp, and then one guy decided not to play anymore. So right away we were down 3 guards. And when they kind of went through the roster, they were kind of like, well, listen, you played, at least played it in high school. So it
Yeah,
won't be that foreign to you. And that's why they kind of came to me. And I was, at first I didn't want to do it because I love defense and all this thing. But like I said, originally it was supposed to be for 1 year. But
yeah, it's
at the
always
at
supposed
the
to be
at
one
then at
year.
the end of the day, I just even back then I was all about team. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted to do whatever the coaches felt was going to help us win games. And if
yeah.
that me playing offensive line was one of the piece of the puzzle, then hey, so be it.
And you guys, I mean, you had a great group of guys. You had a great group of teammates.
Yeah,
The
we
years
did.
that
We
you
had some
played.
great guys that came through those years. You talked about Matt DeGennaro. You talk about Mark Didio, Brian Kozlowski. I mean,
Ah,
there's Bob Belcourt. I mean, there's
no,
Dave Franks, Pat Anglem. There are guys that came through that I played with. I mean, they were some really good players. But the biggest thing, and I think that what makes UConn a little bit different than maybe some places, those are my brothers, man, to this day. And it was
yeah,
funny. Last year, I got inducted into my hometown's Hall of Fame. And when I was, at the dinner, at the banquet, and I was giving my speech, and I was just talking about the different brotherhoods that you develop throughout the years and playing this game. And I look in the back of the room, and there was about 4 or 5 of my UConn teammates that showed up that night. And it hit me as I'm talking. I'm like, we've all been together since 1987
yeah, yeah.
when we met when I arrived at UConn, and from 87 to now 2024, whatever it was last year, we've all found a way to be present at the most important days of each of our lives. Whether it was
Yeah,
getting married, someone having a child. When I think back, at least 1 or 2 of those guys were always found a way to be there. And that
always
night,
by your
that was
side.
obviously very special to me and my family. Here they are again. So I think that's what makes UConn a little bit different than a lot of places, is the brotherhood that we develop.
Yeah, and everyone talks about it, the culture at UConn, and I hate culture because people use it as a buzzword and don't really know what it means. But it really stood out at UConn with the players, especially when you first came in. You were welcomed in. They treated you well. They wanted to make sure if you needed anything, they were there for you. And they did anything possible to make sure that you were happy. And then obviously, if you stayed over the summer, there was nothing else to do in stores. You hung out together. I mean, that's where you really built those relationships over the summer. Were you there most of the summer?
Yeah, even though I only lived, about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes away, I rarely went home. Obviously for the holidays around Christmas time, I would. But in the summertime, no, because I wanted to be there. I wanted to be there with my brothers, training. But like you said, that's where the bonds are developed. And that stuff translates onto the football field because you don't want to let your brother down. You're going to do whatever it takes to help your brother and be there for your brother and know that, hey, if I don't make this block, my brother can't be successful. So those bonds, those relationships are developed in the off season, in the weight room. When you're doing the winter workouts, when times are bleak, when it's freezing cold, or when it's 100 degrees out, whatever it is, that's when you develop those bonds and those relationships. And that's the part of the game that people that have never played don't understand.
No, they don't. They just think you show up on Saturday and
and here we go. We're just going to run around and do some stuff.
they don't understand the work that goes into it for sure. When did you know that you wanted to get into coaching after UConn?
You know what? When I first got out of UConn, just like every other college graduate, all I was thinking about was how can I make money?
Yeah, exactly.
So I went into the private sector and I was working in corporate insurance, doing stuff and doing well. And one of my old high school coaches asked me to help out. And so I was able to adjust my work schedule so I can go to work a little bit earlier, so I can get out earlier and get to practice. And I thought it was just going to be something to kind of goof around with, to be 100% honest. But once I got out there, and it just took over me, to be honest. And I was obsessed with it, and I still am obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And I remember coming home to my wife. We had just gotten married. And I told her, hey, I want to go back to school and get my teaching degree, and I want to coach. I want to teach, and it was a struggle for us because that means no money, because I was going back to school full time, and to get all that, and but it was the best decision I've ever made. And football it's not just a game to me. It's a way of life. It's a way it's like breathing to me. I'm always coaching. I'm always teaching.
Always.
And even now, I mean, when I had a couple of my players, so I'm working, helping out at the high schools right now. And I had a couple players over for dinner a few weeks ago. And even before the dinner, I turned my basement here into a coaching lab.
Yeah.
I've taken it over, and it's a staff meeting room, and I got my film stuff down there, got my grease board set up, and I got all my playbooks, all my notes. So I'm always down in the lab working things out. And I would always tell the players at practice, all the stuff that I'm teaching you guys, I'm not just talking for the sake of talking. I've worked this out in the lab, I've tested it, and it's ready. So when I brought them over to the house, I brought them downstairs, and the first thing they all said, oh my God, he wasn't joking. He does have a lab at his house.
And I think
I had him down there for like an hour. My wife was like, I thought you brought him over here to have dinner. I'm like, well, I got him right here. I got to coach him a little bit before we eat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that resonates with them, especially when they see someone who's played, and especially, played the position. It makes more of a difference than, someone who learned it just basically out of a manual, someone who was a student assistant. I think especially coaches who have played resonate a lot more with players because they know what you're going through. They've
Yeah,
been there.
we've
The
been there.
exact same place.
We've been there, and those situations, not just in coaching, the on the field stuff, but all of it. When you can say that you've been there and gone through it, that stuff resonates. And the same thing, like I said, my passion for UConn football, the things that we talk about, that all the fans talk about, that they want to see, that they wish was going on at UConn. I can sit here and tell you that stuff is possible at UConn. UConn's
Yeah.
not broken. There's nothing wrong. And the reason I can say it because I've done it.
Yeah. We
I've
were
been
right there.
there. I've
Did
been
it.
there, and I know what can happen there. I know what can be done there. It's just got to have the right people there.
Exactly. Exactly. And so what was your first college job after, or were you able
Uh,
to GA while you
no,
were?
I did. I never did the GA thing. I got very lucky. My first college job, I was a D coordinator at Sacred Heart University.
Oh, wow.
So I got
You
a
got
friend of
thrown into the
mine, one
fire.
of my college teammates was actually, he had worked there before me, and then he had transitioned from coaching into an admissions director there. And he called me up and said, hey, they had a staff position. And I always wanted to try college football, and it was only like maybe 2 towns away from where I was living at the time. So I went up there and I was interviewing for a position coach.
Right, right.
And well, about halfway through the interview, the head coach was kind of like,
Yeah.
I see you as more than that position coach. And then it was, can you present the entire defense? I said, sure, yeah. What do you want to talk about? So I started going on. By the end of the day, he offered me the job as the coordinator. And I was
Wow.
there 1 year. And then the head coach's roommate gets his old roommate from college gets the head job at Fordham University, a guy by the name of Ken O'Keefe.
Yep.
And then I get a call. Hey, Lyndon, you've been recommended for the D line job here. I'm like, okay. So next thing I know, I'm off to Fordham. So it
Yeah.
happened. It happened really quick for me. I was very fortunate in how I
And,
got my
and and
start.
that's the nature of the business. I mean, when you're coaching, it really is year to year, sometimes 2 years, but you're going to be on the move. You're
Yeah.
always looking for better positions, a better conference, better pay,
In
better
those
place
young
to
years,
be.
yeah.
Yeah,
When you're just getting started, and you're just looking to be around. When you're a young coach, you're looking to be around different coaches because that's how you learn.
that's how you learn.
That's how you develop as a coach. You hear different insights. There's it's the old saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat. You just
Correct.
have to find out what's your way, and the only way to find that out is to learn a lot of different ways, and then you have to, okay, I've learned these several different ways. Well, which one works best for me? Which one am I best at communicating to others? And that's
Uh,
the part. That's
and
where the teaching part comes in. You have to learn how to teach.
that's what it is. I mean, you really are a teacher and you're presenting every day, whether it's install, whether it's the game plan, whether you're doing your scouting report, you're teaching constantly.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you're teaching a big group of kids and having to get them all to understand the operation. And especially
Absolutely.
as a D coordinator and the D line coach, I mean, you're responsible for everyone and making
Yeah.
sure they know their assignments, know their gaps, know exactly what they're doing.
And the other thing too, as a coordinator, you're coaching the coaches.
Big time. That's
Because you got to
huge.
get these guys to be on the same page with you, and also be able to teach and present your philosophies, your beliefs,
It's your
and
name on it.
that's the only way that it's going to work. But that's the biggest part of coaching, and that's where I talk about the obsession. Because when things don't happen the way it's supposed to happen on the field, the first person that I point to is myself, and
Yeah,
I go back into the lab. Maybe I didn't present it the right way.
right.
Maybe there's a better way to present it or teach it than the way I'm doing it. And I look at that first before I point to the players and say, "Hey, you're doing it wrong." That to me, that's coaching.
It is.
That's when you talk about culture, that's the culture. Whether you are a player, whether you're a coach, if things don't go first, look at the go right. Look at yourself first, and make sure that you're doing all the things that you need to do. And then, okay, how do we fix it as a whole?
And that's taking ownership. That's taking accountability and responsibility.
Absolutely.
And did you have to actually move down to Fordham? Or
You know
were
what?
you able to stay
My
in
first couple
Connecticut?
jobs, I got lucky. When I got the Sacred Heart and the Fordham job, I didn't have to move, but we were
Oh,
able to
good.
live in the same place. And when I got the Fordham job, we were only a train. I was able to take the train
Yeah,
actually
yeah, you're
because the
close enough.
train station right in the middle of the campus at Fordham. So I took
Right.
a train every day to work. And my first move when I got the UConn job, and it was in the middle of the night, but you know when I
How long did you end up staying at Fordham?
same thing, Fordham. I was there for 6 months, and then one day, so Ken O'Keefe at the end of that 6 month that season, he ended up getting the offensive coordinator job at Iowa.
Mm.
So he left. They brought in Dave Clawson as the
From
new
Wake
head coach,
Forest guy. Okay.
who actually fired me.
Yeah.
Then 2 days later brought me back for an interview and then rehired me. So
Oh my God, that's
yeah, so
crazy.
they let me go like 2 days before Christmas. And then they called me back the day after Christmas and said, "Hey, we've heard a lot of good things about you. We want you to come back in and interview." And I was like, "You want me to interview for the job that I had 3 days
Just
ago?" So I did it, and he ended up, rehiring me. And then about 2 months later, not even, all of a sudden he asked, "Hey, who's Randy Edsall?" I was like, "I don't know. Who's Randy Edsall?" And he's like, "Well, he just called and asked for permission to talk to you." And I was like, "Listen, all the guys that I knew at UConn were already gone. No, all those coaches were
Yeah.
gone." I said, "I don't know anybody at UConn." And he's like, "Well, Randy Edsall just got the job there, and he wants permission to interview you." And I was like, "Okay." So I called him back once again. That same friend that I had at Sacred Heart, now at this point, he's working for Coca-Cola. And he was at some banquet where Randy was at, and he was sitting next to him and talking. And Randy was like, "Hey, yeah, I still got one spot left on my staff." And he was like, "Well, I know a guy," and gave him
Well,
my
that's
number.
the
And
importance of networking as well.
yeah,
I mean, coaching is all about who you know and networking
no
and
doubt.
attaching yourself to the right wagon so you go to the
Yeah,
right places. And
yeah.
Randy
We had
Edsall
no
was on
connection at
there.
all.
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
he called me up and said, "Would you come up tomorrow for an interview?" It was about a 10-hour interview.
Yeah,
I
I'm
thought,
sure it was.
I mean, you know how Randy
I'm sure
is.
it was a 10-hour interview.
And I was driving home that night, and he called me up and said, "Hey, you did a great job, and we'd love to offer you the job." And he had already called my coach at Fordham and told him, and he's like, here's all the numbers, here's everything, but I need an answer right now.
Yeah,
And I was like,
yeah.
"Coach,
And I'm sure you were
I was
thrilled.
like, well, Coach, it's my alma mater. What are we going to do?" And he's like, "Okay, there's a staff meeting at 6:30 tomorrow." And he hung up the phone.
That
I
sounds
got off
about
the
right too.
I got off the highway. I'll never forget it. I was in New Haven. I got
Yeah.
off the highway.
Yeah,
I
you
called
know
my
that.
wife. I called my wife. I said, "Listen, it went great. I got the job. I think I'm going to be up here for a while. Get rid of the house, find us a new place." And then I went to Walmart and I bought a couple shirts and a couple pairs of pants.
Yeah.
I went and I slept in my car, and I was at the
Yeah.
staff meeting at 6:30.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. You went to Walmart and then slept in your car to be there for
Yeah.
the 6:30 staff meeting. And that was during a time, I mean, it was challenging because I love Lou Perkins and everything he did. He made the transition for us to go FBS.
Yeah.
He's the reason why we're FBS right now. And
Oh, yeah.
that was the task that your first coaching staff, Coach Edsall, was going with. You're like, we're going FBS. We're gonna be in the Big East. So we're recruiting a different type of player. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently. Was it kind of different than what you were experienced to as far as, being at Maine, being at Fordham, or being at Sacred Heart, and then being at Fordham?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, it was on a whole different scale from those
Yeah.
places. Um, like you said, things happens faster. Things are more aggressive. The recruiting budget is a little bit more to work with. So yeah, it was those first couple years was definitely a transition, as anything else is. But once things got rolling,
Yeah.
you figure things out. You figure it out, and you make it work. And the bottom line, at the end of the day, it comes down, to people. I mean, back then we didn't have all the facilities that were in place.
No,
You
we
know,
had
we,
the
we had
trailers in the back.
and that was even before the trailers. We didn't
Yeah.
have that
Yeah.
in the early years.
We had the pull the room shut, I
Yeah,
remember.
my office was my meeting room, and not all my guys. The first couple of years, I was coaching tight ends,
Mm-hmm.
and all the guys couldn't fit in my office, so I had two of them had to stand in. We had to take turns standing in the hallway, and then we would rotate her out every couple minutes so they could see the film. So, but so I remember those days. But like you said, like anything else, then once we upgraded the facilities, once again we had to go through another transition period because now that you have the facilities, where your recruiting has to change.
100%.
And then
And
once we opened up the Burton facility, now things really changed. So
exactly.
now we were recruiting like a true FBS school. So things changed, and it was a pretty cool experience to go through all those different transitions at one place. We
Yeah.
went through three different types of recruiting during my time there. But once again, it definitely helped me in my career. It's helped me learn different ways of doing it. Like once again, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and but like anything else, it gave me exposure to a lot of different things I probably would not have had.
And you had a great tight end room early on. I mean, you had Dan Deignan, you had
Oh
Rashad
yeah,
Drayton, you had Tommy Collins. You
yeah.
had a lot of talent in
Yeah,
that.
I was fortunate. I was very fortunate with those guys. It was a great group to work with. It was weird, being on the communist side of the ball,
Yeah,
on
right.
on the
Yeah.
offensive side. But no, we had a good time, and those kids worked for them. Yeah, I got no qualms with that. They were a great group to work with. Um, but
No, nobody worked harder
at
than
heart, I was a defensive guy, and I need to get back to the other side. Get back to
well,
the dark side.
that's what's amazing is that you did pretty much everything. I mean, you did the tight ends for a couple of years,
Yeah.
then you moved to, was it the Huskies or the
Yeah,
outside
outside
linebackers?
linebackers. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the outside linebackers, but you also did special teams as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. I did special teams the last probably 8 or 10 years. 8 years, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah. Yeah.
And did you have special teams experience prior to this?
No, zero.
Yeah. 'Cause I know nothing about special teams too,
When
so
I first
that's why
when
I
I
was
first
thinking.
got there, Randy gave me a number of a buddy of his that was coached with him at Georgia Tech at the time. He was out in Seattle. And to be honest, that's the guy who taught me most of what I knew the first couple of years. Because I had no idea I'd never done it before. I was always a D line coach
Right.
everywhere I'd been before that. And but like anything else, like I said, football for whatever reason comes easy to me. Once I
Yeah.
grasp the idea. And once again, I was very fortunate. I had some great specialists. Those early as Mike Morelli and all those
Yeah.
guys. I mean, I had some really good ones. Adam Cole's got, rest his soul.
That's just all. Yep.
I just was fortunate. A lot of guys that played for me were really good, not just good football players, but good people to be around. And they worked as hard as they could, and they gave me everything they had.
Were you also, I mean, I couldn't remember if you were the recruiting coordinator or not, if you took that on at some
Yes,
point.
I was. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's why you did everything. I mean,
Yeah.
you took on the recruiting coordinator spot. From my experience at the college level, that is the most challenging because everyone wants their guy. Everyone wants to push their guy. So
And
you have to
especially
stick through
back
it.
then, obviously it changed over the years where that recruiting coordinator role was taken over by more of an off the field guy.
Correct.
But in those early years there, there was no off the field guy. It was me, and so. But once again, that made me a better recruiter overall, because, like you said, I had to look at it not just I had to look at it as a recruiter, then I had to put the coordinator hat on and look at it from a different angle, because, like you said, everyone's trying to sell their guy to me. Then I had to turn around and sell it to Randy. So it gave me the opportunity to look at it from two different perspectives.
And back then it was, I think, 10 coaches, whereas now it's like a Fortune 500 company.
No doubt. Yeah. It's a little bit different.
With the analyst, the recruiting department, it's crazy.
You got somebody to do everything.
There's a coach for every position. I went up to UConn this summer, and I saw their social media staff. I'm like, what the hell is this? They're like, oh, that's our social media staff.
Well, now the recruiting room is a personnel staff.
It's unbelievable. And there's general managers, and I think it's overblown. I think it's too much. I don't think you need that many voices. And the only thing that comes to mind for me is I remember having staff meetings when we had 10 coaches. I always wonder what staff meetings are like now with the 45 coaches that they have on staff.
Well, you hear all the voices. It's not that much different. And now you got to be selective depending on what kind of room you have. Who's actually coming to those staff meetings?
Oh, right.
There's some people that have to be at every staff meeting, and there's others that don't. That information is going to get relayed to them. So you just got to, like anything else, just manage. Who need to prioritize who needs to be where, because there's stuff that's got to be done too during those staff meetings that not everybody can be in there. And that was even back then when we had a smaller staff. Our operations guy, and once again we were fortunate, we had a great one, and Don Corzine, and he wasn't in every single meeting. There were some times where he had other stuff going on, so it's the same thing now. Not everyone's going to be at every single meeting.
Right.
You have to just prioritize who you need there, and so you can be efficient.
And we took our lumps early on, and we started to turn things around in 2002. And I think that's a credit to the recruits that we started to bring in. Obviously, getting Orlovsky and Terry Cawley. I mean, we were bringing in major recruits, and I think going into the Big East, breaking ground on the stadium. I mean, like you said, the transitions. I mean, we built the stadium in Hartford, and then the Burton complex comes in 2005. I mean, that really legitimized the program. And like you said, it changes the recruits you can go after.
Listen, in the early years, we were recruiting with pitch. We would hold up big pictures. And they were looking at a blank field, and we're like, okay, the stadium's going to be over there, and then we did the same thing with the Burton Center. We used to hold up a picture and say, hey, this is what there are tennis courts there now, but those are going to be gone. And this, so you find different ways to sell it, but when we finally had the actual facilities, we're almost a little bit like spoiled kids. We finally got that big piece of candy. And now we really could go out there and really recruit. But the biggest thing with recruiting, and I know recruiting has changed over the years. Trust me, it's a whole different ballgame now.
It is.
But at the end of the day, you need to recruit kids that fit what you do. It's not just about how many stars they have and all those things. And I think that was what we did a really good job of during our time. We recruited kids that they can do what we do extremely well. And it was also not just from the physical standpoint, it was the mentality of the kid. We were looking for the total package. It wasn't just that they were big and can run fast. Well, are they going to even thrive in our environment? Because as a recruiter, that's the other part sometimes some people lose is you've got to be able to evaluate a kid and say, is this kid going to make it in this environment in Storrs, Connecticut? Is he going to thrive? Because it's not for, but listen, it's not for everybody. And it was no different. It was no different when I was at Maryland. Well, Maryland is a city school. We're a stone's throw from DC. Not every kid is going to thrive in that environment. And that's part of recruiting. You've got to be able to not just evaluate athletic ability. You got to, is it a good fit academically? Is it a good fit socially? Because those are also big pieces of the puzzle, or else it's just not going to work.
Yeah, the
What you're going to
college
end up, and
experience.
what you're going to end up with if you don't do it right is a revolving door. And the
100%.
revolving door doesn't help
100%.
anybody.
Absolutely. And then obviously you were part of the Motor City Bowl, the first bowl win that we ever had. That was huge.
Oh, it was
That was
awesome.
a
That was an
huge
awesome experience.
accomplishment. The 2008 when you played against South Carolina in Birmingham, that
Yeah,
was huge.
one of the coldest
And
games I've ever coached in.
it was unbelievable. And the '09 bowl, the International Bowl, which was in Toronto, I was there for that one. That one was crazy. But all those alliterations, I mean, we always had top talent. We always kept the same philosophy. And we ran the ball. We played tough defense. We didn't turn it over. And those were kind of the staples Coach Edsall had for his mindset. We're not
Right.
going to turn it over. We're going to score in the red zone. We're going to be physical. We're going to run the ball. And that's what I kind of thought we got away from just a little bit at UConn, because we do play outside. We do play on grass. And when it gets October, November, taking advantage of the weather and being able to run the ball and being able to out physical people becomes important, because you can't throw the ball 40 times a game.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is whatever the coaching philosophy is, you got to recruit and develop guys that mimic that philosophy. You know what I mean? You can't
Right.
bring in guys, like you said, that aren't run-oriented mentality people, and then expect them they're going to do it just because you call that play. You got to
Exactly.
recruit those type of people. And there's like, once again, and I know I've said a few times, there's a million ways to skin a cat. There's a million ways to score points. To me, I believe it's all based on what your philosophy is, the type of players you bring in, and also what the situation is. Like you said, if it's 80 degrees out and things are different and we can be a little bit more spread, a little bit more,
You
of
can
course you
sling
can.
it. Yeah.
We get into November in the Northeast, in Hartford, Connecticut, where that wind comes whipping through. You got to have some guys that can strap it up. Unfortunately, UConn was fortunate. They've had guys like Cam Edwards, Victor Rosa recently. Though I think those guys are great backs. Cam,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's a heck of a player.
Unbelievable.
Now they're blessed to have that quarterback Fagano that can sling it around as well. But they have the ability that when they needed to strap it up and
And run
pound
the
it
ball.
out, they had some guys that could do it.
Yeah. No, they 100% did. And then you were obviously part of our first BCS Bowl. We go to the
Yeah.
Fiesta Bowl in Arizona. That had to have been an incredible experience. And if you told us in '99 or 2000 that we were going to be playing in a BCS Bowl 10 years later, I mean, that was just the unthinkable. That was just like, wow, we made it. Like, we
Yeah.
really got there. I
That
mean,
was
and
a
all the time and effort and work that you guys put in for us to get there.
that was an amazing experience. Like you said, it really was not, and it wasn't just being at the Fiesta Bowl. Like you said, it was all the work, all the heartache, all the sweat and tears that went into getting there that people don't know about, that you don't see on Saturdays. What not just us as coaches, but the players, that all the stuff that everybody went through that made us stronger. The unfortunate of losing Jasper Howard.
Yeah,
I always talk about that
terrible.
because as much as that hurt to lose that young man, that was part of the catalyst that helped us become the kind of program that we were, because we had no choice. It was us against everybody else. That's what it felt like. And
Yeah,
we came together in that situation and became an even closer program. So
yeah,
for us to get to the Fiesta Bowl, that stuff doesn't just happen. That was a
right.
culmination of years and years of going through things, some good things, some bad things, but they were all just as important to create that final product. And that's why when people talk now about, well, UConn can never do this, you in football, you can't get, yes, we can do that because I've seen it. I've
You've
been there.
proven it.
I've done it. It's happened before and it can happen again. We just need the right people there. We need people that want to be there and not
Exactly.
people that aren't there to get
Right.
somewhere else.
Exactly. Exactly. No, I said the exact same thing. And then obviously you had the opportunity to go to Maryland, and that was tremendous going into the ACC. What was your experience like at Maryland?
It was tough, and
It was, yeah, it was a lot tougher there.
yeah, we were in a tough situation, and for me, it was really tough because I'm a UConn guy.
Yeah, right.
I wanted to be at UConn, and that's the only place I wanted to be. I had to go because we weren't guaranteed a job if we stayed there.
Right. Right.
So we had to make that
The
we had to
AD.
make that situation. I had a wife and two kids, so I got to
Yeah.
do what I got to do. But you know what, Maryland, it's been good to me, and there are good people there. It was just a tough. And then once we got there, the biggest thing that made it the most difficult, we got there and we were recruiting, like you
And
talked about. It all
you
comes
go to the
back to
Big Ten.
recruiting, but
Yeah.
we were recruiting to play in the ACC,
Yeah.
which is more of a wide, spread out, speed type game. And then all of a sudden, well, you guys are going to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
We're like, wait, we just spent 3 years getting ready to compete in the ACC. Let me say this: playing in the ACC and playing in the Big Ten, that's two different ball games, brother.
It's like going to Mars. It's
Yeah,
like
it's
going to
no
Mars.
doubt.
It's
So
completely
that
different.
transition was difficult, and we got caught in that. But you know what? That's part of coaching. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. If you're in this business long enough, you're going to be on both the up and the down of coaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just part of the business. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
And but I wouldn't trade it. I had some great experience. I met some great people. I learned a lot as a coach. From X's and O's to off the field stuff. I'm better for it. But do I wish it worked out differently in the end? Of course I do, because
Sure. Sure.
we all want to win.
And
But I wouldn't
no,
trade it.
and it doesn't always work out that way. And I know that you were also one of the coaches that was on one of the last teams that won 9 games. They've won 9 games the last 2 seasons. Hopefully going to a decent bowl this year. But as we know, I'll bring up the two great things. The transfer portal and NIL has changed the game
Yeah.
dramatically.
Yes.
Even at UConn, I mean, Coach Moore was bringing in between 40, 50, and sometimes I think this past year was 60 transfers. Do you believe there can be balance between freshman kids you're taking and the transfer portal?
Uh, you know, I believe it can. It's difficult. You have to be in the right situation for it to be balanced. And when I say the right situation, I'm talking about resources. The
Right.
resources have to be
Absolutely.
there, and the university, whatever university you're at, has to be committed to providing those resources to make it balanced. If you're not in that situation, then it's hard because we all know you got to win at the end of the day. You got to find a way to win. And if you're not in those great resources situations, you got to find another way.
Right.
But I think there's a chance for balance, but a lot of it just depends on where you are. So I get it where some people are a little skewed one way or the other. I get it because you have to find whatever the dynamic is at your place, wherever you are at, to make it work. There's not one set formula for everybody.
Right.
Everyone's different. You have to find out what it is at your place. And once again, for UConn, I think you need people in place that understand the environment, understand the climate of UConn. to make it work. You just can't have a random in there because UConn's different. It just
It
is.
is. It is 100%
It
different.
is, and I'm not saying that in a bad or a good way. It's just different,
You
and I
can't
think
just throw
you
kids
need
into that
people in place
environment.
that understand that,
Yeah.
the environment, and that can work in that with that environment. And once again, I said it before, but you have to understand get someone that wants to be in that environment.
Correct.
That is
Correct.
the biggest thing.
Correct. And, we've seen with the transfer portal, it's really been kind of hit or miss. Either you hit on it and you have a great year, or you miss on it and you
Well,
get fired early.
well, here's the
And
thing: you have to understand. When you are recruiting someone from the transfer portal, they're in the portal for a reason.
for a reason.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So you got to do a great job. Well, it comes back to what we talked about a half hour ago. You got to evaluate not just athletically; it's the whole package. You can't just pop
Yeah.
a film in and say, "Okay, this kid can run hard and he's this big and whatever. Hey, let's take him." You got to get this kid on the phone or get a chance to meet the kid and talk to him and do a great job and vet him out. And once again, is this kid capable of being successful in our environment? Because our environment is a little bit different.
No,
And
absolutely.
unless you understand that, that's where I talk about getting the right people in place that understand that is huge. Can he be successful in our environment? That's the question you got to
Absolutely.
ask yourself. Because I've been around some really good football players, but they were in the wrong place. And
Yeah.
I know even when I was at Maryland, when I was at UConn, every place I've been, brought some people in that should not be there.
Yeah. You're never going to hit on
And that's
everyone.
our fault as coaches. We made mistakes, but I've seen it, and I know the one thing I've learned over the years. It's great to have these fantastic players, but if they don't fit in, if they're not going to be able to be successful in your environment, you're spinning wheels. Especially now with the portal, they can transfer as many times as they want.
Yeah.
That kid's going to be gone in a year, so you just wasted a year
Yeah.
trying to develop this young man, and he's gone where you could have brought someone in that you had known would be a better fit. And
And
if
that's
and you make him a player, and that's where coaching comes in. At the end of the
yeah.
day, you can't just develop great players and just throw them on the field and we're going to win because we got great players. You got to do some damn coaching.
Yeah. You sure
And
do.
at the end of the day, you got to have some people that can actually coach. I understand how important recruiting is. Recruiting is the foundation of every program. But at the end of the day, you better have some people that can coach.
Exactly. Exactly. And that has been paramount, especially at UConn. And the one thing that you guys always did well was developing kids. I mean, you would redshirt kids, you would develop them by their redshirt freshman or sophomore year. They were ready to play. And whether they came in with no stars, 1 star, 2 star, they they were dominant players by the time they stepped on that field.
Yeah, let me
So
say
that's
this,
what I
and I
thought that
know
was smart.
there's some people, UConn fans have a tough memory of Randy Edsall with the
Well, of
way
course. Yes.
he left and maybe
Yeah.
how it didn't do well in his second term there. I get all that, but I'll say this: the staffs that I was on at the University of Connecticut, I was around some of the best coaches in the business,
You
and I'm
were.
not just saying that; I mean that wholeheartedly.
You
Those
were.
guys that were on those staffs could coach. They could all recruit.
100%.
Obviously, like you said, we recruited some good players and nobody knew who the heck they were. And they
Exactly.
turned out to be phenomenal players. So we had guys that could evaluate, but those guys were coaches.
Yes.
And it made me such and listen, I'm not going to be modest to anybody when it comes to coaches, when it comes to coaching, because I believe that I'm one of the great ones. But I
I do
am,
too. Yeah.
because of who I was around.
Exactly.
I didn't
Exactly.
just show up the way I am now. I was developed by those guys, the Todd Orlandos, the Norris Wilsons, all those guys, the Joe Moorheads, the Terry
Yep.
Richardsons. I could go on and on and on. Hank Hughes. These
Yep.
dudes are coaches, and
Yeah.
they are great coaches, and they're all great recruiters. But that's what it's about, man. You got to have some guys there recruit, but then you also better have some dudes that can coach.
And the good part was you guys had continuity for a long time, for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
Norris got to go to Columbia. Coach Ambrose ended up at Towson. But like you said, I mean, you had phenomenal coaches. Coach Orlando is still doing a great job. I think he's at South Florida.
Yep.
But they are great coaches. And I think that is what UConn needs to go back to. We've taken guys in the portal. We've taken a lot less freshmen. And right now, for the first time ever in the program's history, we've won 9 games 2 years in a row. We have a chance to win a 10th game. God willing, we go to a bowl and can win. For the future, I am on probably 5 different text chains, and your name comes up consistently because we want someone who is a UConn guy. We want someone who understands the Northeast. We want someone who understands recruiting. And you having an opportunity to come back to UConn, is that something that you would entertain at this point?
Listen, Steve, UConn is my home.
UConn
is in my blood. And given an opportunity to come back to UConn, I'd be there tomorrow morning if they ever asked me. And listen, I hear what's going on out there right now. My name's being thrown around, and trust me, I understand. Me getting the head coach job at UConn is probably a long shot. I get it, but here's what I want. I want the opportunity, whether it's with Mr. Benedict or whoever else, is to have the opportunity to hear what I have to say.
Absolutely.
I don't care if you're going to hire me, because
and you've earned the right.
What I care more about than me getting that job is I care about UConn football.
Right.
And I have an opinion, and like you said, it's an opinion after many years of coaching. It's an opinion of being a part of this program. It's an opinion after understanding what it's going to take for UConn to get to where they want to get to, because I've already done it and I can do it again, whether that be as an assistant coach, as a head coach, or whatever. I want to be a part of it because I am UConn and UConn is me. And I just need the opportunity to get in front of him or whoever so that they can hear what I have to say. And then they have to make the decision that they feel is best for the university. That's what it's all about. And that's what their job is. And I get all that. I understand. There's dudes out there with much bigger names than mine right now. I understand all that. And I get it. But those guys don't have the passion that I have. Those guys don't understand UConn like I do. Those guys don't know what it's going to take to win at UConn consistently like I do. And last of all, those guys don't want to be at UConn like I want to be at UConn.
Correct.
They want to be at UConn so they can do real well and get
go
the next job.
Exactly.
I want to be at UConn because UConn's my destination. UConn's what I've been trying to get back to. UConn's where I want to be. And that's what we need. We need someone where UConn is a destination job, not a passerby job.
100%.
That's what we needed. And I said this 3 years ago. I said, well, if we make this hire, here's what's going to happen. Either he's going to fail and he's going to be gone in 2, or he's going to do well, and in about 3 years, he's going to be on to the next job. Because this wasn't the destination. And nothing against Coach Moore. Coach Moore is a great coach.
Yeah. No,
I don't know him. I don't know him personally, but I have followed his career. He is a phenomenal coach. I mean, the guy has done amazing things. He's developed some awesome players. He's done a great job for UConn. There's nothing wrong with what he's done here, but UConn wasn't the destination.
No, he wanted to be on the West Coast.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I get it.
Not at all.
I understand that. But we need someone where this is the destination.
Absolutely.
This is the career move. This is the job for them. And that's what we need. And if that is not me, then it needs to be someone else. But all I'm saying is I want to be a part of it. I want to find a way that I can help UConn football get back, not get to get back to where UConn football should be.
Right. Because you were part of the building from the ground up. You know what it takes.
Exactly. Because I've
to
done
have
it.
success.
All the things that
You've
we
done
say
it.
we want at UConn, it's not me sitting here saying it or making a wish.
It's
I've done
history.
it. I've
Yeah,
seen it done, so I know it can be done.
absolutely. Do you believe that we can get into a Power Four conference? Do you believe that we should try to get into a Group of Five or Group of Six conference? Or do you believe that, we can stay an independent imminently for the next 4 or 5 years?
Uh, I think there's only one team in this country that could stay an independent
That's Notre
that long,
Dame.
and our helmets aren't gold enough like them.
No, they're not. They're not.
No, I think we need to be in a conference, but of course UConn can be in a Power Five. Why
Yes.
why can't we?
Yes.
We
Yes.
were we have been before when we were in the Big
We
East.
were.
We played with those guys. We won it twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We did.
don't say that we can't. Of course we can with the right
Absolutely.
leadership. And I get it. Things are a little volatile right now, and yeah. But if we get our next opportunity, because there's going to be more expansion, we all know it's coming in college football.
Never going to stop.
The next time the next window comes along, we got to find a way to get in that window. But yeah, of course we could be in a Power Five. That should be the goal.
Yeah, because I have said I don't know that we can survive as an independent for another 5 years. I think there has to be a sense of urgency to get into one of those conferences.
Yeah,
one way or another. Like SMU giving up 9 years of television revenue broadcasting to get into a conference.
You got to get in because once again, we've been talking a lot this evening about recruiting. Think about recruit. You got to recruit because kids want to play for championships.
Absolutely, they do.
You know, and the only way you're going to be able to do that consistently, you got to be in a conference.
Yes,
that helps with recruiting. Listen, UConn's got enough hurdles to climb over recruiting wise because of the things that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
But to take away a conference and not having a conference championship, we're just giving ourselves one more hurdle that we have to climb. If we can get into a conference, hopefully a Power Five, but we just need to get into a conference where there's a championship game every year. We can use that in recruiting. That opens up a little more wins. I'm not going to say that's going to be the end-all be-all in recruiting, but it's going to help us.
No, it's going to be huge. And even, I talked about it, the Big East for basketball, the revenue that we're getting is minute compared to the other conferences. We won the national championship for women's basketball last year. The Big East received $650,000.
Wow.
The SEC received $8 million because they got more teams in. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, the national championship was worth like $250,000. It must have been. But yeah, and
football's a different animal. Football's a different animal.
Football rules the roost. And I think they have to understand that. We can win 10 national championships in basketball, but it's not going to generate the revenue that it will in football if we get into one of those power conferences. Rutgers goes 5-7 every year. They get $40 million from revenue share.
Yeah.
I think if we can get our attendance up a little bit, so we're over 25, 30,000. If we have something to offer these conferences to where they're not just saying UConn's going to be another mouth to feed. UConn is a brand and a powerhouse. And I think given a year or two of time before joining, absolutely we can go in and have success.
Yeah.
But
it all comes back to the product on the field. You put the right product on the field, all the things that you're talking about are going to follow.
Absolutely. And I can tell you that there's a groundswell of support that would love to see you back at UConn. And we're gonna try to do everything possible to make sure you get in front of Mr. Benedict, and at least he can hear you out, because we believe, it's guys like you, it's guys like Coach Marino, guys like Coach Ambrose, guys who have been there and spent a majority of time there. Those are the guys that need to be there to lead this team. and right now it's unknown. And I know they're going with the offensive coordinator, Gordon, for the
Gordy is a
bowl game.
good. I'll tell you what, he's a good coach.
He is. He's done a
He's a good
phenomenal
coach.
job. Phenomenal job. He's a Broyles finalist this year.
Yeah, and rightfully so. Yeah.
Give him all the credit in the world for that. But yeah, 100%. I can tell you there is a ton of support behind you, and I can tell you that a lot of people would love to see you sitting in that big chair, and we will make some noise. If I have to go stand outside the Burton complex, I will. So,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
But I wanted to thank you for coming on here and sharing your story and sharing your passion for UConn. And I definitely appreciate it. I know you have some gray hairs that are a few of them maybe because of me, but we won't talk about that. But
yeah, we'll keep those secret. Keep those in the vault.
Where your family's doing well, your kids are doing well, everything's going great.
Everybody's awesome. Everybody's doing awesome here.
I'm so glad that you're coaching again. You're helping out again. That's awesome because that's where you belong. You're a football guy through and through, and we talk about bleeding blue, and you definitely bleed blue.
No doubt.
For the man himself, Coach Lyndon Johnson, I am Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe. This has been Husky Talk. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back at life. Great job, Coach.